Are these the forgotten relics of an industrial era? Is this the place that no one cares about? This abandoned Imperial Oil town site and its few remaining buildings is about to see a big change. In July of 1920, a group of men went into the forest near the Imperial Oil Refinery at Ioco to view the site and draft plans for the layout of a new town. Workers were soon dispatched to fell trees and clear the land. After they'd cut the trees, another team of men hauled the logs out of the forest with a donkey engine and sent them to the sawmills. Using dynamite, they removed the stumps, piled them to one side, and began slash burning the area to clear the remaining underbrush. Temporary wooden roads were built on the gentle slopes leading down to Burrard Inlet, and construction of the housing began. Eventually, there were 83 homes built on the site or relocated to the area. Refinery workers who chose to build their own homes without assistance of the cooperative organization known as the Ioco Town Site Company were given a city lot free of cost. Those employees who were not prepared to build their own homes were able to choose a design for the houses to be built and purchase them on a 20-year plan. The town site was completed with green grass, sidewalks, but most importantly, each house had flush toilets, which was a luxury at that time. The town employed 14 gardeners. They were not full-time, as they would work at the refinery for 4 hours in the morning, and in the afternoon they would garden. Along with the construction of the houses, the company built a grocery store. The large structure included a residence above, occupied by the owner. Along with the grocery store, the building housed a drugstore, post office, barbershop, and a pool table. The store operated continuously until its closure in 1995. The second major building on the site was the Ioco Community Hall. This was the home to countless social events including banquets, dances, meetings, and wedding receptions. The hall featured 2 floors, a stage for live performances, dressing rooms, a projection room for movie nights, and a large basement. This once thriving town of 83 families now has but 2 homes, which are still in use. In total, only 13 buildings remain on site. Many of these are slowly decaying because of the damp and cold. Tri-Cities TV spoke to longtime residents Roy Johnson and his wife Nadia. Roy, your family has a history in Ioco going back to the 1920s. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather, Barnett Horn, was looking for work, and the Imperial Oil offered work. And they initially came into South Vancouver, and I guess after finding out that there is work over in Port Moody at the Imperial Oil Company, they brought their family in here with the ferries, because there was no other service to get out here. And they came in here in June 1922. They bought this place through the Imperial Oil for $1 Canadian.
When did you first visit Ioco, and what was your memory of it?
I remember back at that time when I first came here, that was when I was about 7 years old, and the township had a neat little feeling in my heart, because I was actually born in Manitoba, and we lived on a farm where there was no service and stuff like that. And seeing these homes at that time as a kid, I thought it was really neat that there was a groceteria in this small little village, and going to it, picking up ice cream or cigarettes from my great uncle, and actually just the warm family sense that everybody knew everybody's name here.
Well, eventually you ended up moving to Ioco yourself. When did that occur?
That happened after my great uncle passed away in early 90s. And yeah, we moved in here about 1992. And it was, I think, in the springtime, close to spring, summer, and yeah, that's when we arrived. We actually started residing here.
At that time, the groceteria was still operating. Do you have any memories about that?
Yeah, Denny operated it, and I forgot the name of the lady that used to work there too, and Evelyn. Yeah, that's right, Evelyn. And yeah, they were such wonderful, open, loving, caring people. It was just nice having that family grocery store nearby. It was just wonderful. Yeah.
I just remember walking down and talking to Evelyn and Denny. It was quite a, we were quite a stir in the community back when we moved here, because we were doing all the construction on the house. So all the neighbors, you know, were curious as to what was going on, and they used to bring us treats all the time. And my dad was here building the house with Roy, and so they would come for coffee and they would bring us muffins and all kinds of things, and then I would go down to the groceteria and talk with them and pick up stuff if we needed every once in a while. They still had a few things back then, and the plant was still in operation back then, so a lot of the workers would still come for lunch. So I would go down there just to say hi and talk with them and pick up groceries.
Your house is almost 100 years old, correct?
Yes, it is.
So what are the features of your home that you'd like to see preserved?
The wood that's all in this home, and how they built this home, and the floors and the doors and everything, were all lumber from here. So our floors are true 100-year-old, not free wood, true craftsmanship in here. We have 2 bedrooms upstairs, and we have a large room upstairs, which is like a living room, bedroom up there for our guests. And when you have 2 bedrooms downstairs as well, Roy and my dad put a lot of love and work in this. It was truly a labor of love. We've kept it pretty well, the character the same, but we have remodernized it a little bit. That, to me, is the one beautiful feature of this home, is that it's pretty well to character as it was.
I'm told that the Ioco Community Hall was used for all kinds of events. Do you remember anything about the hall?
Not myself personally, because as a child growing up in, like, not here, I'd only visit here in the summer, and I've never been in the community hall to this day. But listening to my great uncle, they used to have you know, barbecue events and dances.
It was only operational probably about for 2 or 3 years after we moved here, so there was not that much going on, but I have heard tons of stories of the dances and parties and meetings and things that they used to do there.
I love the location. The location, imagine being in a community hall right by the inlet. It's so spectacular, and you have the woods and the animals, and it just really, it's really nice, comforting feeling to have, I guess, it's peace of mind. Peace of mind.
You used to have a number of neighbors. I believe now, originally there were over 80 homes in this area. What was it like living with your neighbors at that time?
The doors were always open, and I don't know if anybody locked their door. If you look around, there's no fences. Everybody was welcome, and very open community spirit here. You don't get that, I don't know, anywhere really now.
I never felt so welcomed moving into a community as I did here. Never had any problems with getting to know anyone. Everyone was totally open. The feel of just how welcome you were when you came here, I could never describe that, or I don't know if I could ever get that back again. So I do miss that. We haven't had neighbors for 15 years, so miss really that community spirit. It was the hardest thing to lose when people did move from here.
Yeah, as a result of the people moving away, things have changed considerably in Ioco. What would you say is it's like living in Ioco now?
It's still beautiful. I mean, we have our memories, which of course no one can take away from us, right? But it is lonesome. It was hard to see all these wonderful people move away, especially how they took care of the homes and the grounds and of each other. And the problems with infrastructure and the deterioration of infrastructure has been a battle for us. I feel like the city of Port Moody kind of has forgotten about us.
I don't know how many times our water's been shut off, and when they start it up again, we get this yellow goo that you can't drink it. I mean, it's got so much turbidity in there, it's nasty, and then they're expecting me to flush it with a garden hose. The system that they designed, and the lack of service is been troublesome. Like the snowstorm that happened about 5 years ago, maybe 6. You know, they plowed the main Ioco road, but they neglected to do the side street, and it was a huge mountain, like ice mountain, to try and get down over. I mean, I had to hack it out with an axe just to get my truck through.
Many of the homes in Ioco are abandoned. Do you think they could be saved?
Well, definitely the community hall and the groceteria, beautiful structures. And there's a few on the other side. We're on 3rd Avenue, and on 2nd Avenue there could be places that could be salvageable, but it's one of those things. These old homes were meant to breathe and be heated and be lived in, and they haven't been lived in for, since 2000. When Imperial Oil wanted all the tenants to leave. And with all these tarps on top, I don't know if it's a good thing. Mind you, I haven't been inside them, but I know if you have these old homes and you cover them up, they're going to rot.
Would you like to see the community hall and the groceteria preserved and restored?
Absolutely. This heritage feel in this area is paramount. It would be awesome for the city of Port Moody to definitely try and keep their heritage feel here. The nature, the arts, this is Port Moody, and to keep these things together for generations is, I think, hands down paramount to continue on.
They should be preserved and revitalized and have those community events and dances and cafes or a little pub or everything. People should come to know what this huge part of Port Moody's heritage was.
If they are preserved, what would you like to see happen with them?
I would like to see definitely I guess museum qualities, heritage qualities, and promoting the history of Port Moody with those buildings for sure, and keeping the family spirit alive. Like especially the hometown feel where everybody knows their name. That would be wonderful, and the interaction with the children, learning about the history of Port Moody. I mean, what better area could you have where they have a sense of, I would have to call it a little cabin in the woods, where they can see the trees, look at the fauna, look at the surrounding, this jewel of Vancouver. I would call it a jewel.
I would like to see that maybe if they could make a little village and incorporate it as a gateway to the new development or new prosperity that's going to be going on around here. I think an extension of the museum or a museum would be wonderful.
And caught up, I guess you'd say, of possibly losing the heritage values here. And what I would like to say, I guess, is, damn it, let's keep the heritage here. We can make this happen.
Ioco is an important part of Port Moody. Now originally when Port Moody started, it wasn't part of it. Ioco developed all on its own. But then in '88 it started to become part of Port Moody and officially became part of Port Moody in 1993. And it's all part of the history of this area, the Port Moody, the head of the inlet. And I think we need to preserve it. It became a heritage conservation in 2002, and it is important. We need to maintain our heritage so that we have some semblance of knowing where we came from and how things worked in the past and how we can make them better in the future.
Jim, what do you consider the most important reason for preserving the buildings on the Ioco site?
The most important reason for preserving the buildings here in Ioco is we need to maintain some sense of our heritage. The buildings are the built heritage of the site, and if we don't keep that, that's where the main part of the heritage resides, is in the buildings, how they were used, how they fit into the community.
If the buildings on the Ioco lands were to be preserved, what would you like to see Imperial Oil and the Brilliant Circle Group do with them?
The future use of the buildings, I would like to see that they actually, like the community hall, could actually stay as a hall. I think there is a need for it. I think it could be used that way. The groceteria, it actually could turn into a coffee shop and a 7-Eleven, for a better lack of terms for nowadays. But it could still be a functioning part of the community as a retail building.
Would you prefer to see them remain on site or moved into the new development area?
I would prefer to see them stay on site. It's better if you can manage to maintain the buildings on their original location, because that gives some semblance of how the community was set up originally. And to try to use them that way is the best thing in the long run. If we have to, as a last resort, then you try to move them.
So if the community hall was relocated and brought up to code, do you see a need for another hall venue in Port Moody?
Port Moody could certainly use another hall venue. The ones that are being used now are pretty well at capacity. And certainly as the development of this area increases, the population goes up, they will need amenities here as well. So that there certainly is the need for a hall here.
I'm speaking with Robert Simons, president of the Port Moody Heritage Society. Robert, what concerns does the Heritage Society have about the state of the Ioco Community Hall?
Well, currently the hall has been vacated for well over 15 years now, hasn't been used, and what we have noticed is that there's really been no maintenance maintained on the hall. Very rudimentary as it has been, the hall is gradually falling into a state where it's going to become very difficult to remediate and put it back into effective use. It was the center of this community. And so when you have a community that basically has its lifeblood built around a community hall and there's a heritage component to it, you shouldn't let a hall of this nature deteriorate in the fashion that it has.
The community hall and the groceteria sit on land that Imperial Oil is keeping as a buffer zone between the industrial site and the Brilliant Circle Group property. What would you like to see happen to the buildings if the Brilliant Circle Group develops their site?
I guess there's two ways to look at it. First of all, we are disappointed the fact that the whole town site has not been basically retained in a unified group. The fact that it's been split in two makes it very difficult to sort of continue the heritage component of the whole town site. The buildings themselves, they should probably in the long term be left where they were, because that's the location where they existed within the town site. And the development that should be done on site here should actually build to ensure that it's sort of contained within the same area that it was originally developed. If it comes to the fact that the town site is going to remain in this split format, there could be opportunities to possibly relocate the buildings onto the site that has been recently sold, possibly create more of a community identity around it. But at this point, we're really waiting for the developer of the property that's been sold, as well as Imperial Oil, to really come together and determine how best to protect these two buildings to ensure that they do represent what this town site had as its community center. I think the big thing that I would like to really point out is we really are sitting and standing on land here that represents a unique characteristic of Metro Vancouver and Port Moody as it was developing. It represents a unique town site, an industrial town site that is representative of many different town sites that exist around British Columbia, in fact across Canada, that were the early locations where industrial development of this country took place. Now, we all kind of talk about the fact that there's basically different types of industrial development today as compared to yesterday, but this represents that type of development that really makes the nation what we are now. And what I would love to be able to say is that in the future, when you come back to this site, you'll be able to see something that slowly and very much represents what the community was in that day, so that people can come back and appreciate the fact that, you know, there is certainly a living history here, and we need to somehow find a way to maintain and protect that.
Ioco was once a vibrant, family-oriented community filled with people that cared about their homes and their neighbors. Now, it's a ghost town. Once there were properties with well-tended gardens. Now, rhododendrons burst with color as heritage homes decay. Today, as you drive through the streets and avenues of Ioco, little remains but empty lots and boarded-up houses with their roofs wrapped with tarps. An idyllic and scenic walkway once used by local residents to traverse the creek that divides the little community has its access denied because of decay and neglect. The people of Port Moody are the caretakers of Ioco's heritage. These iconic buildings can be preserved with the cooperation of Imperial Oil, the City of Port Moody, and the development company, the Brilliant Circle Group. These buildings can be the future of the new Ioco, but only if we care.